Hard to get any work done with a lorikeet. So hi and welcome back to Yesterday Today Sewing, where I take the patterns of past decades and adapt them, make them up to put in my current day wardrobe. And today I thought it was time to start a shirt. Very basic, very black shirt. And I did this because I've recently completed my Edwardian walking skirt adaptation, and I realised I don't have enough shirts in my wardrobe to wear with skirts like that. So I wanted to do something that was going to complement that sort of a shape. So I was looking through traditional Edwardian kind of patterns to see whether I would do something like that. And I thought, you know what, I don't actually want to go too full on traditional Edwardian for this. I want a silhouette that's going to flatter the shape, but I want to update it a little bit more. And as I thought through, I remembered a shirt that I made way back in the 80s, which I absolutely loved. And I thought, you know, it's got elements of what you would have seen in late Victorian Edwardian times, but it's also very distinctly sort of more current, well, than 80s, but sort of timeless in a way. So I rummaged back through my pattern collection and I found it. It's this McCall's pattern, and it definitely would have been late 80s when I was making this. And I loved the shirt, specifically for these sleeves with the beautiful pleats in them as well. And I was looking at that and I thought, you know what, that could work with the skirt, that silhouette with the fuller sleeve, maybe with a neckline more like this. I probably won't do a ruffle quite like this, but I might put a little bit of lace into it to pretty it up a little bit. I may leave the sleeve at the 3/4 like this, or I might give it a longer wristband there to take it up to full length, maybe something like that. But I think this could be an interesting starting point for a shirt. So that's what we're going to do. Come and join me on that journey. I have my pattern. It is the size I was 30 something years ago, which is not my size right now, so I will have to do a bit of resizing of this as well, which I haven't done an awful lot of, so we'll see how that goes as I do it. I have myself here some black cotton lawn, which I think will make up quite nicely for this, and I do have a variety of in here black cotton laces that I might be able to make use of. So this could work quite nicely into a sort of insertion that runs along the seams here. Whether I decide to put any tucks in, I've got a slightly wider lace, which, you know, might even look nice covering the button as a sort of band there. But first, I think what I'm going to have to do is trace out this pattern, get some of the resizing happening, and then I will work out if I want to adapt the base pattern any, or whether I start making it and then do stuff as I sew it up. We'll see. Come and join me. All right, so it's resizing time. As you can see, I have cut out my pattern pieces. These are the main body. Yes, Laurie. And what I have done is just drawn. Oops, I can't see it. Let me turn that down again. There we go. So what I have done is drawn slash lines. So one across the middle of the side front, one on the centre front that leads to the shoulder seam, one on the centre front which leads to the neckline, and I've done the same at the back. So one on the side back, this is the centre back piece upside down from the others, and I've got one slash line leading to the neck, one slash line leading to the shoulder, and I've tried to roughly position them in the same spot respective of the notches there. So I went through and I worked out, come back up here, I went through and I worked out based on the sizing how much I needed to add. So the maths is the difference between this size and my size, which came to 18 centimetres. So I'm bigger than this size by 18 centimetres. You would then divide that by 4 because you'll have 2 front, 2 backs. So to evenly divide that all around, so that's 4.5 centimetres. So since I have roughly 3 spots, I would be looking, I don't think I need to take it for this pattern because it is quite loose to the full 4.5 centimetres in each quadrant. So I'll probably aim for about 3 centimetres. So just widening each of these slashes by maybe about 1 centimetre each. I might add a little bit more closer to the centre back than I will at the shoulder seam because I don't know that I'll need the full width up here at the shoulder. And maybe make this one on the side, front and side back, a little bit wider than 1 centimetre because I'm happy to have that extra width there. So all I'm going to go through now is grab my paper scissors, slash this, and then measure the increase I want. So I think for this side piece I'll do this one 1.5-ish. What I should do is have some scrap paper that I'll stick underneath this, which I have scrunched up for the lorry, and then what I'll do is when I retrace this pattern onto the paper at my current size, I will adjust this here, because at the moment it's not a nice straight seam anymore. This requisite amount that I've got on this side back, this becomes part of the sleeve, so when I extend the sleeve out I will have to make sure that this seam is also open to the requisite amount, and I have a lorry trying to, oi, rip, lorry, thank you. And this is the joys of working with the lorry kit. Thank you. Yes. Hey look, I've got all this paper here for you. Play with that. No. Not the scissors either. So, where was I? So yes, on this side back, this will equate to part of the arm piece through here because this is sort of a raglan sleeve kind of pattern. So I will measure this line and make sure I slash that part of the sleeve by the same amount, so that will fit again. And I won't, I think, do a separate mock-up when I've finished all of this, because the lawn I plan to use is not much more expensive than the calico muslin kind of mock-up fabric that I would use. So I think it'll just be easiest to make it up in the main fabric, and can always play with the seam allowances if there are any issues. Right, so here's how the pattern looks as I approach the end of the resizing. It is really remarkably simple. Yes, fine, thank you. Remarkably simple if you don't have a lorikeet, I guess. As well as widening a bit, you will probably find you'll have to readjust to lengthen or shorten as well, which is what I am doing here. But look, if you've come here particularly to check out the resizing tips, what I will do is link you to my blog below where I'll go into more details, have some diagrams, and just lay out everything so that you know how best to do it. It is really quite simple. It was nowhere near as hard as I thought. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. Give it a go and you can start to use so many more of those older patterns once you do. Right, so once I had retraced all my patterns, cut it out, it is time to get the fabric done. Finally, it's the bit you love. You actually feel like you're getting somewhere. And yeah, it's a simple job unless, like me, you have, again, a lorikeet trying to get in on the action. Hi, Laurie. As you can see here, I am a fan of tailor's tacking in order to make all of the marks on my patterns. No matter what, whether it's chalk, whether it's those newfangled marking pens, I still find tailor's tacking is the best way to make all of these marks and to be the most accurate you can when you're doing this. And look, it may seem fiddly, especially when it comes to all of these pleats, but it works and it's accurate. Right, I did have to put off doing those pleats. Here I am doing a French seam for some of those simple straight seams. I start with wrong sides together, do a thin seam, trim it down, turn it, and then stitch along the stitching line with the right sides together. And it just gives you the most beautifully encased seam. Is it any wonder I love French seams so much? Look at it. If your fabric's thin enough, give it a go. Right, having done those seams, I had to get back and get around to basting down all those pleats. This is probably my least favourite job, basting pleats, but you know, if you're going to have lovely pleats, it's what you got to do. Yeah, it's worth it. Right, so I have the centre, front and back joined with the French seam. The collar is on. I've got the sleeves joined to the side, front and back, also with a lovely neat French seam. Now I need to join all the way down the sort of side front over the shoulder with the sleeve and the side back to the centerpiece. Laurie, no pins. No, you'll hurt yourself. So the question is, if I am going to do all of that, how am I going to finish that seam? Will it work to do another French seam with this kind of seam? I love French seams. You've probably picked that up by now. I really like how they finish it off, but I'm not entirely sure that with all the pleats and all of that, that it's going to be a really easy one to French seam. Maybe I need to research some seam finishes, see what's going to be the best way to do it. So I did go back to my lovely successful dressmaking book to read some of its suggestions on different seam finishes and where to use them. But what they do tend to say is that the flat fill seam is pretty good for shirts and blouses and things like that. It sits nice and flat, and it is nice and neat. And actually that extra line of top stitching may look quite a good feature on that long seam there. So I reckon I'm going to aim to fell it, which means then I need to sew right sides together, I guess. Not wrong sides this time. Glad we've established that. Hey Laurie. So felling it is. I'll decide whether I hand fell it or machine fell it when I get there. Too many choices. So hand felling was the go, and then once that was done, once the inside and side seam had been sewn, it was time to put the cuff on. Now I decided to go for a wider cuff, for a more sort of Edwardian-ish feel to it. And I quite like how that one came out. And so once those had got on, there was all of that hemming to do. Seam felling, sewing down the collar, cuffs. Can you have too much hemming? And boy, it makes the trip go an awful lot quicker when you have hand sewing to do. So here is the almost finished shirt. It's wearable except for buttons and buttonholes, so I'm just spacing out the buttons. But what I'm not sure about, because it's quite a strict black shirt, you know, it's quite, yeah, austere, I guess is a good word. And I'm wondering, does it need a little bit more? Would a little bit of lace soften it up? So what I thought I might do is get out some of my laces and just start laying them on and seeing what I think, whether I would like to add a little bit of something to soften the look of this shirt. So let's see what I can discover. So I think this is what I'm going to do. And I can decide whether I actually cut out the fabric behind so that it's more insertion lace, or whether I just sew it on the top. And of course, I will then have to think about whether I add more lace to these. But I think for now, I'll get this going and take it from there. And of course that means more hand sewing. Yay! I find it just so relaxing. It may not be quick, but it's just one of those mindful activities that you've got to love. So anyway, once all that lace was on, we have then the finished shirt, which I just love with this outfit. It's kind of Edwardian, but not too Edwardian. It would work with a pair of jeans as well as working with a skirt like this. Absolutely love it. That bit of lace is just the touch it needed to do it. So thank you for joining me on this shirt exploration, and feel free to join me for more historic sewing in the very near future.